I'm Jennifer Morgan. I'm the Hunter Education Program Coordinator with the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish. And today, I'm going to cover how to properly match your ammunition to your firearm before you go hunting. You can follow along with me on pages 12 through 18 in your Hunter Education Manual. If you don't have a manual, you can download one for free at the link provided. So before we get started today, I'm going to cover 3 basic firearm safety rules. Rule number 1, treat every firearm as if it were loaded. Number 2, always maintain proper muzzle control. And number 3, keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Before we get into firearms and ammunition matching, I'm going to go ahead and cover the different firearms action types that may be available to you for your hunt. The first one that you guys have been familiar with in some of the other video segments that I've been doing is the bolt action rifle. Prior to me bringing all these firearms out of proper storage, I double checked that the actions were clear, chambers were clear, magazines were empty. But of course, it's always a good idea to double check every time you touch a firearm. So we're going to talk about the bolt action first. I'm going to double check, make sure my chamber action is all clear there. So this is your bolt action rifle. Action is closed. Action is open, safety on. All right. The second one that is most commonly used in hunting is the shotgun. This is a pump action shotgun or slide. The reason why we call it a pump or a slide is you move it up like that and it racks another round. Okay? You shoot and then you have to manually load. Okay? Safety's on. Double check. The next one that's very common action used is the semi-auto, especially for small game and non-game like rabbits or prairie dogs. This is an excellent caliber to be using for that type of hunting. So I've also removed the magazine from this 22. How the semi-auto works is when you squeeze that trigger, it closes the action. And then once that trigger is pulled or squeezed, it'll open it again, expel that round, and it automatically then load another one in. Now you have to squeeze the trigger each time for that action to work. That's why it's called a semi-automatic. Okay? And last not least, we have the lever action rifle. This one can be a little complicated, but again, is a commonly used rifle for some of our big game animals. Okay, this one is clear. So it's got a lever here. I'm going to close that action. That would have loaded it. Open it. Spent round comes out, closes it again, and loads another round through this tubular magazine. Now the thing that's tricky about a lever action is sometimes with the safety, to disengage the safety, a lot of the times you do have to put your finger on the trigger to disengage that hammer. Then sometimes the safety also has a half cock. So a lot of the times that is definitely not safe. And remember, in some of our previous video segments, I talked about safeties. They are mechanical devices that can and will fail. It definitely can do that on this one. If you hit this firearm very hard, it will push that hammer forward. So again, there are some additional safety concerns with your lever action. One action type that I do not have is a break action shotgun or any kind of break action firearm at all. That's a hinge action, and I'm going to show you an animation during this segment today that will demonstrate that hinge action or break action firearm and how it is loaded. So now let's talk about proper ammunition for your firearms. Depending upon what action type you use is going to depend upon either what gauge you use for a shotgun or what caliber you're going to use for one of your rifles. So I'm going to then just show you a gauge and a caliber. So there's lots of different types of cartridges you can use for a rifle. And the most important thing you need to look at when you're looking at your firearm is the data stamp. The data stamp can be shown on either side of the barrel. It's going to give you a lot of information about the firearm, but it will tell you the gauge or caliber of ammunition that is matched specifically to that firearm. So you gather that information. This says a Winchester, of course that's the make, and 30-30 is the caliber. So I've got some different cartridges here. That data stamp on that firearm is going to tell me which cartridge I'm going to use. So I'm going to need to look at the stamp on the cartridge. So I have 3 different ones here, and what I'm going to look for is each cartridge is stamped on the bottom. Alright, this one says 30-30. The stamp on the data stamp said 30-30. This is the only ammunition I'm going to use for this firearm. Same with the gauge on a shotgun. You can go anywhere from a 410, I won't get into that, all the way up to a 10 gauge. You can see the different sizes. So for this particular shotgun, I'm going to look at the data stamp. Okay, there's lots of information, and again, you're going to have to look on the firearm on what side of the barrel it's going to be located at. So this says 12 gauge, and it also gives me some additional information on shell size, 2 3/4. So not only is it telling me it's a 12 gauge, same thing, on the bottom of the shell it's going to tell me which gauge it's going to be for, 12 gauge. On the box, it's going to tell you the shell size. If I pick up a 12 gauge 3-inch shell, that is not recommended for this firearm. It is too long. This particular shotgun is saying 2 3/4. So 2 3/4 or shorter is going to work for this firearm. So be very mindful of that. That's why it's extremely important that while you're out hunting or even at the shooting range, you carry your own ammunition for your firearm. You might have some really nice pockets while you're out pheasant hunting or quail hunting and you're out shooting, and maybe your friend or a family member doesn't have nice pockets to put their ammunition in. Don't take their ammunition and put it in your pocket, because if they have a 20 gauge and you have a 12 gauge and you reach for the wrong shells out of the wrong pocket, that's going to be a bad situation. So only carry your ammunition for the firearm you're going to be using, and also expect that though of your other hunting partners as well. So I hope I've given you a lot of great information today on proper ammunition and firearms matching, and it's extremely important to follow that while you're out in the field hunting or on the shooting range. And I ask you to join me next week where I challenge you to a second Wildlife ID challenge. Thank you.